8 years ago, I danced with my father at my wedding, which was a miracle for me. And it only happened because I set out on a journey to find and master forgiveness. We all experience trauma when people hurt us or do us wrong, and that can make it hard and sometimes impossible to forgive and let go. Yet without forgiveness, life is governed by the past, the emotional ties to the offender, the inner conflicts caused by resentment, bitterness, and hate. Without forgiveness, we cannot become whole and enjoy the fullness of life. I can attest to that. My father abandoned my sister, mother, and I when I was not even a year old. Growing up without a father was a big challenge, coupled with living in Russian-occupied East Germany and being a Christian in a country that frowned on religion added to our daily struggle, making life all the more difficult. The absence of a father figure affects a lot of decisions you make. I made a lot of bad decisions and essentially paid the price for it. My sister was 3 when my father left us, and it crushed her emotionally, which sadly had a trickle-down effect onto her children. Mother and I constantly tried to mitigate, but there's only so much we could do. Auntie, who broke up all contact with her brother, helped as well. So did Grandma and Grandpa. They actually took the grief about their son abandoning us into their grave. I hated my father for all the suffering he inflicted on 4 generations. When he had the guts to show up 45 years later, wanting to be part of my life, I was not only dumbfounded, I was immensely irritated. I was pissed. I was supposed to do what? Forgive him? I managed to overcome many seemingly insurmountable hurdles in life. Social, emotional, personal, and economic. This was the hardest one to conquer. How do you forgive someone who caused you and your loved ones so much pain? Life is a precious gift. We only get to live once. I want to live an amazing life, achieve my goals, strive and be happy, and it is my passion and purpose to empower others to do the same. To empower and inspire others, you have to live by example. My father showing up hit me over the head with a baseball bat. I had to find a way to forgive him based on my values and what's important to me, not the past that made me so resentful towards him. And that is why I went on a pilgrimage to find and master forgiveness. When faced with a challenge, I always start with why, as your why is the reason for which you do it. Your why is what moves, drives, and energizes you and brings meaning to what you do. What does it mean to forgive my father? Why would or should I do it? I had to take a deep dive into my psyche, soul, mind, and spirit, where I was shocked to discover that carrying hate with me all these years was the root for me being easily irritated, holding grudges for way too long, and my occasional dive into self-pity land. Those toxic thoughts and emotions towards my father affected my whole being negatively and ultimately prevented me from becoming more of the person I want to be. Kind, loving, open-minded, compassionate, not judgmental, the list goes on. What a discovery. I had to forgive and let go for my own sake, to find inner peace and to become who I wanted to be. I came to realize that while forgiving is an act we perform towards others, it is also an act of kindness to ourselves, as we lighten our emotional load and get rid of the baggage that is holding us hostage and is eating away at our chance for emotional freedom, happiness, and success. We cannot change what happened, nor do we have to condone it. But we can choose to cleanse our heart and make peace with the past instead of being enslaved and burdened by it for the rest of our lives. I was ready to make peace, but how? How would I forgive and let go? A very challenging question for someone who is a champion of holding grudges. In my search for an answer, I discovered that forgiveness is not a light switch. You don't just forgive and move on. Forgiveness is a dance that you learn and practice daily, a dance that combines a deep understanding of yourself with courage, perseverance, and a willingness to grow and change, a dance that leads to inner freedom and peace, which alters who you are and how you interact with the world, and it enables you to craft a life that you will love. The dance of forgiveness will look different for each of us. Your dance steps will depend on what it is that you need to forgive and let go, and what it is that you want to be, become, have, and achieve. What would that be? It took me some time to come up with my own answer. To be more at peace with myself and the world, I needed to find a way to get rid of my negative tendencies that subconsciously fire every time something doesn't go my way. What if I were to pay more attention to those situations? What if I were to be more at choice with my thoughts and actions versus letting my negative tendencies fire whenever they want to? It was worth exploring. I came up with my first 3 dance steps that I call stop, think, choose. When something doesn't go my way, I stop for a second and take a deep breath. And then I think of, what would I normally do? How would I react in that situation? And would that reaction serve me best? And if not, I consciously decide to act different in favor of myself, to find inner peace and to live my best life possible. I started to practice those dance steps daily and noticed the difference. It is amazing. When you choose to act with intention versus simply reacting out of habit, you gain control of your life and are able to shape it the way you want it to be. I'm grateful that my father showed up and put me to work. It truly changed my life. I realized that forgiveness is not an option, but a necessity for healing and growing. I had nothing to lose, only to gain. Things changed for me when I switched my attention from my father being the root of so much trauma to myself and focused on self-compassion. I started to understand that unless I master anger and resentment, I'll get mastered by it. Through awareness and understanding, I was able to change my whole being, and through that, I found ways to forgive my father. Forgiveness magically snuck up on me. The wedding dance with my father was the start of a new beginning. I now have a family that did not exist for 45 years. If you're curious about my whole journey, you can find it in my book, Break, Loose and Fly. What I retained from my journey is my daily dance practice. During the day, I practice the stop, think, choose steps. And before I go to bed, I finish my dance with these 2 additional steps that I simply call Break Loose and Fly. First, I think of something to be grateful for, as I believe that gratitude is the key element to joyful living. It is a feeling that nurtures the soul, and it opens the gateway to forgiveness and freedom. Once I open that door, I think of who or what needs to be forgiven and let go, which sometimes still includes my father, especially on days when I hear about my nieces struggling. And then I consciously decide to let it go and be at peace. The next morning, I start fresh and free. Don't let the sun go down under your anger. It's what my grandpa often said. Well, for many years, I wasn't able to do this, as holding grudges was one of my specialties. Now, I have my daily dance practice that helps me to master forgiveness and to live my best life possible. There are days I find it easy to dance, others not so much. And sometimes I stumble. When that happens, I make it part of the dance. It all comes back to making conscious choices. Well, we can't always choose the music life plays for us. We can choose how we dance to it. Just imagine what the world would look like if we were all practicing the dance of forgiveness daily. Join me.